Hello, everyone. We're going to give it just a few minutes for folks to continue coming in, but we're really excited that y'all are here. And yeah, just give us another couple minutes so we could get more folks in the space. We'll get going in just a second. All righty. Dr. Francisco Lugo, do you want to kick us off?
Sure thing. So good after or good evening, everybody. So my name is Francisco Lugo. I currently serve as the director of Fraternity Sorority Life here at Georgia Southern. So we are definitely excited to welcome you all. All almost 900 women will be joining us in a few weeks. So we're definitely excited about that. So we just wanted to provide this presentation for all our supporters and parents of the women who are going to be going through the process. So you all have a better understanding of what the process entails and also what the schedule looks like. Because have been some changes from last year due to how many women are actually participating in this process now. So we're going to definitely cover all the bases and then also allow you to ask us questions to make sure that you have all the things that you need and all your questions are answered before you come to Georgia Southern. So that's also part of it to make sure that you get everything situated and take care of all your needs before you actually head over to Southern on August 11th. So as we start again, I'm just going to allow some people to introduce themselves. So again, we have a few people that are going to be helping your women navigate, and the majority of them will be present at all times during recruitment. So just know that these are the people that your women will be interacting and seeing. So if there's any questions and concerns, feel free to reach out to any of these individuals, and then they'll be able to assist. The only person who may be here and there would be Erin Rice, who serves as our assistant director on the Armstrong campus. So she may be hit and miss, but she may be here on Tuesday on the 11th. But after that, she'll be back in Armstrong doing her thing there. And I'll go ahead and throw it to Daniel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel McBurney. I'm the Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life at Georgia Southern University, and I work primarily on the Statesboro campus. And my primary role is advising and supporting the Panhellenic Association, which includes this incredible recruitment process. I'll pass it over to Harriet.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harriet Baker. I serve as a facilitator for the purposes of recruitment and assist our recruitment counselors and executive board in the successful placement of our students.
And then the other two people that are on this list also would be our assistant or our graduate students who will be joining us. So their first day actually is going to be that Tuesday. So they'll be joining us during our recruitment. So they're brand new. So just want to kind of welcome them. They are women who were at Georgia Southern as undergrad. So now they're starting their master's program. So they are very well versed in recruitment. One was a past president of one of our organizations, and the other one was part of Panhellenic as well. So they are well versed in this process. So with that said, just want to kind of introduce a little few other people that will be supporting you moving through this process. So Dr. Shay Little is our Vice President of Student Affairs. So she is definitely one of our biggest supporters in this space. So definitely she'll be making her rounds as her schedules allows it, since we're going to be also working with moving things throughout that week that you all will be here. So keep that in mind that you will more likely see her, or your students will more likely see her during this process. And then secondly, I want to introduce Dr. Aileen Dow, who is our Associate Vice President in Dealing with Students, and she's on this call, so allow her to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Lugo, and good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Again, on behalf of the administration and this wonderful group before you, welcome to Georgia Southern. Welcome to Eagle Nation. This experience will be breathtaking. It will be overwhelming, but it will be wonderful and exciting. I do want to share that this is a special group. Our affiliated students are a very special group. And please note that administration wholeheartedly supports this group. A lot of our cabinet members, and myself included, are affiliated. So we understand and appreciate the importance of becoming affiliated in the community that it brings, and the sense of belonging. So again, please, please, please have your future Eagles enjoy this process, make wonderful connections, and be acclimated to our Georgia Southern community. So we welcome you and are here to serve you in any capacity. Thank you again and have a great evening.
All right. And I did want to mention too, real quick, you will see these students. You've probably seen their names. If you were at our SOAR sessions, you saw them around in their PHA jerseys. But the leaders of the Panhellenic Association, primarily these two, Grace Pham, our Panhellenic president, and then Emma Castro is our vice president of recruitment. These are the student leaders that make sorority recruitment happen. So they do an incredible job and really make those connections to the students and enhance that student experience during recruitment, which we know is a very busy and nerve-wracking time. And having students like them as a part of that experience really supports and makes it such a better process for the students. And these are an incredible group of student leaders that have really put together a great recruitment process for your students that we'll talk about in just a second. So, as we get started, I did want to go ahead and let you know we will have a Q&A at the end, but I do have the Q&A off right now because we have a lot of slides to go through. So I want to make sure that we could get through all of the slides. I would hope that a good chunk of your question should be answered through the slideshow so that you won't have to re-ask them at the end or take away your questions or anything like that. So that's why we keep it off till the end. But once we get to that Q&A portion, after we've gone through the content, we will turn back on the Q&A to answer any other questions that you have. So, want to start with recruitment terms. So, this is some of the vernacular that you're going to hear us use throughout the presentation. You might hear your students talk about it as they talk and share with you about their recruitment process. So, these are some of the terminology that might be helpful to know. First off, potential new member. PNM is the acronym. These are the women going through the process. So these are your students. So any woman who registers for sorority recruitment and is participating in the recruitment process is a PNM. Each of our PNMs gets a PNM number when they register for recruitment in the online campus director system. So when we refer to the PNM number, that number is the number that we use to identify them because, as Francisco mentioned, we have upwards of 900 women. So having those numbers is helpful for us, and we'll talk about how important it is to make sure your student knows their number throughout the week. We also have our PICAIs. PICAIs are our recruitment counselors. So these are women who disaffiliate from their organizations throughout the week of recruitment to specifically help your students and be an unbiased support system to help them navigate the recruitment process. So we have our Panhellenic Executive Board, which are 8 women who are supporting the recruitment process, and then we have 25 additional Pi Chis who help navigate, make recruitment run smooth, and also serve as peer mentors and support for your students going through the recruitment process. So again, more students being able to provide that peer-to-peer connection as your students are navigating this process. The next term is a bid. So what a bid is an invitation to membership. So if your student receives a bid, that means they're being invited to join said organization as a new member. So that's what we're talking about when we say bid. Rounds. So each day is themed to help women know more about chapters as well as find their best fit. So each of those, we group all of our sorority recruitment into rounds. So there are 4 rounds for our sorority recruitment process, and each of them is themed that help the P&M have conversations around a variety of topics that help them get a well-rounded understanding of the organizations that they're invited back to. Parties are events within each round. So within each round, your student will have the opportunity to attend a variety of parties, which are their opportunity to go to that sorority facility, meet with the members in there, watch videos, whatever the organization does to recruit members. That's what they're doing in those parties. So your student will receive a schedule with the parties that they are invited to, and that's where they show up to actually meet the members. So rounds are the big day that are themed, and then parties are within each round, if that makes sense. The big one we want to talk about, and Harriet will talk about this towards the end as we talk about mutual selection, but uh, the phrase we talk about and what we hear students talk about a lot is intentional single preference, or ISP. So at the end of recruitment, and again, Harriet will talk a little bit about this, and I'll talk about it as we talk about the recruitment schedule. If a student gets to the end of recruitment and they decide that they are only want one organization and they don't want to bid from anyone else that they've been invited back to, they can intentionally single preference them. So only put that organization on their selections as they go into bid day, letting us know they don't want to bid from anybody else. So that's what intentional single preferencing looks like. Common term that we don't use because of a lot of the connotation and that it holds. A lot of students might call it suicide bidding. That's obviously not something that we call it due to the inappropriateness of that. But the term is called intentional single preferencing. So that's what they do and what that means. And then last but not least is the Membership Recruitment Acceptance Binding Agreement, the MRABA, MRABA. So the MRABA, the MRABA, is a binding agreement between the P&M and the National Panhellenic Conference, which is the national conglomerate of all 26 sororities that oversee the 7 that we have that participate in sorority recruitment. So when your student signs that contract, they are signing a contract saying that whatever organizations that they've put on the MRABA, they would accept a bid to this organization and that they are bound to that bid until the next primary recruitment period. These are things we could get a little more in depth in as we talk about the recruitment schedule towards the end of the presentation. But we at least want you to know what the terminology is. The MRABA is that contract, and it's a digital contract that they sign, quote unquote, in their app using their credentials. So now let's talk about the recruitment week breakdown. Many of you may know that recruitment has undergone a bit of a change this year. So, like Francisco mentioned, our recruitment numbers the past 2 years have spiked, and that it's a great thing because we've seen great growth across our community and such a huge interest in the incredible sorority experience that Georgia Southern has to offer. So, with that being said, to support the logistics of such a large recruitment process, the first round of recruitment is now a video round. So, icebreakers, which is the theme of that first round, is a video round. So, the way this has worked, and many of your students have likely already done this because we've been doing it throughout the summer as they've registered for recruitment. But students participating in recruitment have been uploaded in the Sorority Recruitment Folio course, which is our online learning platform that all students will take their online courses in as they go through Georgia Southern. We built one for sorority recruitment. They learn all things about recruitment, and each of the sororities has a video uploaded in there that they're required to watch to introduce them to all 7 sororities that we have on campus. At the end of that folio course, P&Ms will film, or they have filmed if they've already turned them in, because many of your students had their due date already. But P&Ms will or have filmed their own introduction video, and they submitted it into the folio course where we then get those to the sororities, where then they have the opportunity to meet the student through their video. And that's where the first round of recruitment begins, is watching of the videos from each end. So with that being said, watching the videos on each side is the first step for icebreakers. The second step is making those selections. So we'll talk a lot about selections in a bit, but at the end of each sorority recruitment round, P&Ms make selections. So Harriet will talk about selections and the in-depth mutual selection process. But basically, in a nutshell, selections are the students clustering and ranking the organizations that they are most interested in visiting at the next round, which is the philanthropy round. So selections for the first round of recruitment are happening virtually via Zoom next week, August 3rd through August the 6th. Students are receiving their time slot via their Georgia Southern email. That will include the Zoom link and their specified time slot. There's 3-hour time slots, so students just pop in whenever they're free. A Panhellenic executive board member will be there, take them into their own waiting room, our own breakout room where they can privately make their selections. We'll get them submitted, and that will be how the selections process works. So again, we'll talk a little bit about what mutual selections look like and what the P&M will actually put in their selections as Harriet does her mutual selection piece at the end. But know that that is next week, August 3rd through the 6th. And students will be receiving their email early in the morning tomorrow about their time slot and the Zoom link. Next piece is move-in, check-in, and P&M orientation. So if your student is living on campus, you get to move in early. If you haven't signed up for your early move-in spot, definitely make sure you work with your student to get that signed up for as soon as possible so that you know what time you are moving in on that day. But there are slots available for move-in on Tuesday, August 11th, which is the early move-in date, from 9 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. at Watson Commons. So that is when everyone shows up, you check in with housing, get your keys and all those different pieces and start moving in to the residence hall. P&M orientation will take place in 2 sessions later that day. We have our first session with check-in starting at around 2 p.m. and our second session starting at around 3:30. Students will get an email with their time slot. We know there is a little bit of overlap with the last move-in slot, so those folks we will accommodate and make sure that they're able to make both their move-in time slot and their P&M orientation. But with that being said, they'll be assigned their move-in or P&M orientation time slots, the 2 o'clock or the 3:30. Students will get the email with their time slot, and it is important that they arrive to their scheduled time slot and not flip-flop back and forth. The reason being is that the Performing Arts Center, where P&M orientation takes place, has a limited capacity. So we need folks to show up on the time so that we logistically can make sure we're fitting everybody in that space. So with that being said, orientation is for our students only, again, solely for the logistics in the space and that it is not large enough to accommodate every single person that wants to be there. So that is an event that is for students only that day. So going into the schedule, we talked about move-in and P&M orientation. So then we get to Wednesday, August 12th, which is the first day of philanthropy round, which is round two, which is the first in-person day. Very exciting piece. All students will arrive at the Performing Arts Center for breakfast and coffee at 8:30 that morning. Well, again, we will have breakfast and coffee for everyone because we'll talk about how important it is to eat and nourish yourself and stay hydrated. So students will have some food to gather for that. And after everyone arrives at the Performing Arts Center, all P&Ms will receive their schedule for a philanthropy round that morning once everyone arrives at the Performing Arts Center. For philanthropy round, P&Ms may be invited to up to, and notice it says up to, 6 chapters. So they could be invited up to 6 sororities over the course of the philanthropy round. And the first 7 parties for philanthropy round take place on this day. Thursday is the continuation of philanthropy round. So the second 7 parties will take place on this day. There is no required meet at the pack early in the morning piece. Depending on what your student's schedule is, they would just be required to show up to their first party of the day at least 30 minutes in advance so we can get them lined up and all the things necessary. And at the end of a philanthropy round, so whether it's day 1 or day 2, whenever your student has finished their last party for philanthropy round, they will put in their selections with one of our staff, executive board, or recruitment counselors. So that is what our philanthropy round looks like. It's spread across 2 days. We did that intentionally because we know a lot of students haven't been on Olympic Boulevard yet. So we've made for scheduled extra time and that primary meeting spot in the morning to make sure we could get everyone where they need to go without being late or missing any events or anything of that nature. So Friday, August 14th is Sisterhood Round, which is round 3 of recruitment. During Sisterhood Round, P&Ms may visit to up to 4 chapters on that day. And again, similar to Philanthropy Round, once you're done with all your events for the day, put in your selections for preference. And then Saturday, August 15th is Preference Round, where P&Ms may visit up to 2 organizations on that day. So with that being said, that is all the rounds, and then we get to Sunday, the most exciting day, bid day. So at that point, that is where we do mutual selection, and your student is matched with an organization, and P&Ms will receive that invitation of membership from a chapter. So important part for all of our parents and supporters. Parents and supporters are more than welcome to attend. So that is something that is available. Bid day and when parents start arriving is at around 10 a.m. For most pieces. We don't, give all the things out in advance because, truth be told, the students are opening their envelopes with their bids at 10 o'clock. That is how the process works. Once your student opens their envelope, they are responsible for letting you know this is the organization they were received a bid from and where you show up, which chapter facility you show up for bid day if you choose to attend. It's not a requirement to attend, and it's not every single person does it, but it is an option, and if something you might want to do if you have the availability to do it. What we do tell everyone is that the best place to park for our parents and families would be lot 29, which is a very short 5-minute walk from Olympic Boulevard because Olympic Boulevard will be closed given all the festivities and foot traffic all over the street. So now we're going to talk about the recruitment process. So Harriet, you are up. So we will go ahead and pass it off.
Hi, everyone. So as Daniel has mentioned on multiple occasions throughout the logistics and mechanics of recruitment, we've referred to the process called mutual selection. Mutual selection provides each P&M an opportunity to indicate how she wants to progress through the week and who she wants to have additional conversations with. And I really, really love giving this particular presentation to this particular audience because you are going to be someone that she likely turns to answer questions. We provide the same presentation to the students so that they are aware of what is happening. The term process sounds very vague and it seems very impersonal during what is a very personal week and a very personal choice. So I find the more the merrier, and knowing and understanding what we're referring to when we're talking about mutual selection. So as we advance through the slides, I will walk you through, and again, I tend to use a hypothetical situation, a hypothetical community, so that you can just understand and digest the concept, right? We're not talking about particular chapters. I also find with the P&Ms, they also like to have this information ahead of it being real and these being actual chapters they've already met with, to understand, I guess, what's happening on the back end. So Daniel, if you'll advance the slides. As I mentioned, I'm going to simplify this down in very simple terms. I like to explain it like an algorithm. So at the end of each round, and this year being a little bit different with our video round, your student is going to get the opportunity to like a certain number of chapters. And then instead of, and this is kind of incorrect vocabulary, instead of saying no to anybody, they're saying no, thank you. The algorithm maximizes the opportunities to have that student participate in as many invitations as they possibly can throughout the week. So we always tell students they are not ever going to have the opportunity to release or cut a chapter. They can't say no. They can only say no, thank you. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So at the end of each round of recruitment, they will be invited to give a certain number of yeses, and then they will have some no thank yous. So in this hypothetical, these are 8 organizations in our example. We don't even have 8 organizations, but this will prove out the concept for you. These 8 organizations, at the end of that round, this student will need to, what I'm going to call cluster 6, and then rank the remaining 2. The cluster is the group of chapters she would most like to go back to and have additional conversations with that in the next round. Those, it doesn't matter what order they're in any way. The rank, so those that fall outside of, so in the 7th and 8th position in this example, those do matter, the rank. So we will help them to identify and ensure that they put them in the correct preference. So cluster is essentially 1 through 6. And then if you hit advance, it'll show you 7 and 8 are going to be put in rank spot number 1 and rank spot number 2. And that is going to get submitted through the P&M Companion app or through Campus Director where they registered. And we will help them to make these submissions. As Daniel mentioned, it'll be virtually via Zoom during an assigned time for the first round before they even come to campus, before they even meet anybody. That will have taken place for the first round. In the next round, we will be on site. They will do it on grow with us, with the staff. So they'll have lots of assistance in terms of any technical difficulties they run into with the app. We'll also be offering technical support and assistance in the virtual Zoom selections as well, but that goes into a computer system. At the same time, so what that's going to do is that's going to interface with information we collect from the chapters about who they would like to invite back into the next round. So on the next slide, you will see what the algorithm is going to do. It's going to look for mutual matches. That means if this student wanted to go back to alpha, as she indicated in her cluster, we are going to look at the system is the interface is going to look at if alpha invited her back. In this case, alpha did invite her back. It's going to look at delta and see if she's on delta's invite list. She is, so she's going to go back there. Is she on Ada's list? She is not. And so this is where we ask you to pay attention, because only when it doesn't work out with Ada is not going to be a spot on her schedule the next day, then you're going to watch that middle bracket. It's going to go down, and to maximize her schedule, when we get to the bottom of the schedule, we're going to try to get Epsilon into that 6th spot, because it was never going to be an option to be with Ada. So now we look at Lambda to figure out if she's a match there. She is. And Mu, she is. And then she's going to go back to Nu. Okay, so she's mutually matched to 5 of the 6 groups. In order to fill that 6th potential spot on her list, we're going to look to Epsilon to see if she's on Epsilon's invite list. The system looks at Epsilon, she's not, so then we're going to advance that bracket again, and we're going to see if we can get her an invitation to Gamma. And then at that point, she matches to Gamma. She has a full schedule of 6 chapters that she will be attending in the next round. This process repeats itself. As Daniel mentioned, even if you're invited back to 6 in the round of philanthropy, you're only going to advance to a maximum of 4 for sisterhood. Now, what does that mean if I only get invited to 4 houses for philanthropy? Then it means you would put all 4 in your cluster as you move into sisterhood round. And you would indicate that you would accept invitations to all 4 to maximize your options into those groups. So you would only be ranking a group if you had more than the maximum number of invitations that day. So again, this becomes very case by case for every single PNM, as people will get invited back into varying numbers of invitations round to round. I always like to mention and give parents and caregivers a heads up that it is uncommon to have a full schedule of 6 in the round for philanthropy. It is uncommon to have a full schedule or maximum schedule at every round of recruitment. That again is not the norm. And so just preparing yourself and your student for that. And it's not to say that the group that they ultimately will be in and love and adore and commit to membership for a lifetime is not in the 4 or 3 that they're invited back to from round to round. So I always like to give everyone a heads up so they kind of know what that looks like. This algorithm is tried and true. And, I think one of the questions, I'll get ahead of it now, that we get every year, because every year we've gotten on and said, record year, more PNMs than ever. This system is built for infinite number of PNMs, and it's to put the interest of the student in a place where we are looking for mutual matches, and that they're ultimately getting an opportunity, and that we're maximizing their opportunity to talk to the people they want to talk to. Only when the chapter has not mutually invited them back will they not appear on their schedule. And so I just think that this is a really beautiful thing that students are provided the opportunity to indicate their preferences, and that we go through everything we can to make sure that they're getting into events where they have a realistic opportunity to join. If you go to the next slide, I like to make a couple of clarifications, because I do think that language matters. There is no cutting or dropping of an organization. Like I said at the beginning, we say no thank you. And so we do a really respectful job of correcting the students or using correct language in front of the students that they said no thank you, or they ranked them. So when someone comes in and says, I cut them yesterday. No, you put them in your rank yesterday. Doesn't mean that they might not end up back on your schedule. And that is something you can really help us to do a great deal of legwork with. Mutual selection provides the opportunity to fill that schedule with chapters that are excited about meeting you and that might want to reconsider. This and the next point I pair together, because chapters rank you. If you rank a chapter and then you return the next day, the chapter never knows. Because remember, what the algorithm is looking for is, did the chapter invite you back? Yes, they did invite you back. So they expect to see you the next day. So that is really where Panhellenic becomes the broker of the relationships and the invitations, is so that there is no awkwardness or uncomfortable feelings. They will never know if you ranked them the previous day. And this is another piece that, you know, we amp up every year, and having PNMs understand they don't have to share who they're putting down or what they're submitting with anybody. It is their private information. Sometimes they may use that on you as well, and to say, like, I don't want to tell you, mom, dad, aunt, whomever, who I put, because it's their decision, and they don't want to be, if they're going to be happy with whomever's on their schedule the next day, like, why have anybody else know who was in their rank, right? So we're big cheerleaders for that, and that's their private information, their thing to share. So I wouldn't get on the phone each afternoon, each evening, and say, who'd you put? How'd you rank them? Doesn't matter. Are you happy with the people you met today? Are you finding relationships that matter to you? Those are the types of questions that are more helpful than asking or drilling down into who they put in what position and how they ranked. Really explore like what relationships they're building, I think is really helpful. The last thing on my piece is the MRABA. So Daniel walked us through intentional single preferencing. At the end of the week, your student will be asked to sign a contract. Now, it's in our app and it's digital, but they're asked, and we really spend a lot of time with this as a staff to do this individually, one-on-one with every single PNM, however many there may be. We have a conversation about the agreement, the contract that they're signing. What this contract does is it says that they are pre-accepting a bid to membership without knowing which of the bids that they might receive. So at preference, they can attend a maximum of 2. If they're invited to 2 houses, they have the opportunity to list both. When they list both, it means that they are pre-accepting a bid, which is a 1-year commitment. They don't have to join, they don't have to initiate, but they cannot join any other group other than the group they ultimately get a bid from for 1 calendar year. And that is important for them to understand, that to maximize their options, they're going to want to put both, but they should not ever list a group in which they do not have any intention to joining at any other point. There's no odds to play. There's no algorithms, sneak around to say, like, you have better chances of getting in with the one that you want by doing one thing or the other. That is not how it works. And so if we get to that place with a student where they are considering that maybe one of the groups that they attended that day is not a group that they would ever join, they would come and talk to a staff member, and we would have a really direct conversation about what, there's no shame in that, but let's talk through what your options would be and what you would put down on that contract at that point. And so again, that's again not the majority of students, and so we tell people not to worry about it till we really get there. If your student is having questions, you can email us. Really, what we ask you to do, ask your student to come and talk to us in person. We're there, we're on the ground, we're sitting in the sun, we're sitting in the rain with everybody else. Tell them to come find a staff member or a recruitment counselor or a member of exec. We're all trained at the same level to be able to answer those hypothetical questions as they become less hypothetical and more real. And so I just want to make sure that that process does exist. There's nothing fishy going on with it, but it's really not going to affect the majority of participants. And so let's talk about it Thursday, Friday, as we get closer to preference, if that's feeling like it's going to be a reality. And that's it on mutual selection.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, what does this mean for you, and how can you assist and support your student through this awesome process? So, first, we want y'all to encourage your students to have an open mind. All of these organizations are incredible. I love to always mention their total last year was 300. Our organizations were 300 members large. There are people in there that your student is going to love and build really cool relationships with. So have an open mind and keep an open mind as they navigate through the process, and really focus on the relationships that they're building and maximizing their options. Like Harriet said, maximizing their options through the process gives your student the opportunity to maybe reconsider some folks. Maybe it was a event that they weren't feeling too hot, but they're on the schedule again. How are you looking at, is there another opportunity to build good relationships in that space? Another opportunity, again, the rounds are all different. So you're learning something new about each of the organizations every single day, and it might be that round that really clicks and makes your student really connect with an organization that they might not have thought of. From the beforehand. So really encouraging them to have that open mind and maximize their options. Learning the login information for campus director is a huge one. I change a whole lot of passwords during recruitment. So the less I have to change, the better. The login information for all the students is their Georgia Southern username and password. So the quicker they memorize their username and password, the easier it is for them to log in, to be able to make their selections, see their schedule, and do all of those different pieces. Next up, check the recruitment folio. This folio is brand new and completely revamped and updated and is the best that it's ever been to both support the video round of recruitment, but as well as provide so much information. Our Panhellenic women spent hours making narrated videos and tutorials for all the students. So it's a really good opportunity and a wealth of information. It isn't just something they should log in, submit their video, and then forget about it forever. It is a continuous resource that they can continue to point to throughout the recruitment process, including Harriet's mutual selection video. So if you have questions about that, Harriet has a narrated version of the mutual selection presentation she just did in that folio. So awesome place to find all of those pieces. Other thing I like to mention about the folio, it is the student online learning platform where they're taking all their classes. So your student, by virtue of going through the sorority recruitment process, has navigated content on folio. Filmed and submitted a video via Folio through the assignment portal and taken a quiz on Folio, more than any other student coming in the Georgia Southern has done prior to ever starting their academic career. So your students are already ahead of the game whenever they get it put into any online or hybrid classes that have that online work. They already know how to navigate Folio, which is great. The other piece we mentioned at the beginning, but I will always mention again, eat meals, stay hydrated, nourish yourself, all of those things. If you've come to SOAR over the summer, just about every SOAR session there was a heat advisory, and it is incredibly hot and it is incredibly humid, and recruitment is walking and waiting and some of those different pieces. So it is very important that your students eat a good breakfast, eat at lunch. The dining halls will be open during the duration of sorority recruitment. So if your student has a meal plan, their meal plan is active and ready. So all that being said, please eat, please stay hydrated, have your student bring a water bottle. That is key to keeping them having a healthy and happy recruitment experience. Ask questions. Encourage your student to ask questions to the chapters. The women in the organizations want to answer questions. They want to talk about their organization. They want to talk about how incredible it is and share all the information that your students want to hear. So it's important to ask those questions, especially if those questions are deal breaking questions such as around chapter finances and dues or any of these other pieces, right? It's important for your students to ask those questions so they're learning what they need to know during the sorority recruitment process so that they're making the best decisions during that selection process at the end of each round. Next up is just be yourself. Our students want authentic, incredible women joining our organization. So the best thing your student can do is be themselves. At the end of the day, um, when a student joins an organization, they're joining because the chapter had an authentic connection with that student. And if your student isn't being themselves, that connection hurts a little bit and can cause issues. So it's important that they're being themselves, coming into that session, speaking to their interests, the things they like to do, what they're looking for in a sorority experience, and overall, putting their best foot forward and building a relationship with these women. And last but not least, relax and have fun. It is a very structured experience. It is outside and there are long days, but at the end of the day, they're having incredible conversations with some of the best students that Georgia Southern's campus has to offer. And that's a fun time. So at the end of the day, don't forget to remind your students to enjoy the experience that they're having and connect and relish in the conversations and experience because it is a really incredible experience. And while it can be stressful, the point of it is to have fun and find a place where you can belong here on campus. Things to keep in mind. We're in South Georgia. Most of y'all have been to SOAR because we are at our second to last, our today was our second to last Statesboro SOAR session before recruitment. So most of y'all have already been to Statesboro. It's going to be hot. And then more than likely, we will have some precipitation. So with that being said, make sure that the students understand that. Make sure that they have walking shoes in addition to whatever shoes they might want to wear inside of their particular parties. Make sure there's some sort of umbrella or rain jacket available if it does start raining again. Those summer showers are very real. And make sure she's taking care of herself and eating, hydrating, and all of those different pieces. We'll have water coolers all along Olympic Boulevard so they can continually fill their water bottle throughout the recruitment process and stay hydrated. And we'll have snacks and things at some of our break houses on Olympic Boulevard. But again, be mindful of the weather, be prepared for the weather because that will, we are in South Georgia and in the summer, that weather is very finicky. So be mindful of that and help your students prepare. A big thing, bringing a bag where she can keep snacks and anything else with her throughout the week. An important piece of those bags. Obviously, we talked about some of the things in terms of preparation for weather, having some snacks and different things. The other thing I want to mention, if there's anything your student needs to have a healthy, safe recruitment experience, such as any medication or medical devices or any of those pieces. Make sure that those are on your student and help remind them to have that. They're not going to get in trouble for bringing some sort of monitoring device for any medical condition into any sort of party or anything like that. The whole point is to make sure that they're having a positive experience, and priority is health and safety. So please make sure your students have any medications, medical devices, whatever the case may be, on their person. To let everyone know, I know this is something that we've started doing the past few years. We will have an emergency medical technician on site throughout the duration of sorority recruitment for any accommodations or health conditions that your student listed on their recruitment registration. We provide that to the EMT so they are aware if in case they need to respond to any medical emergencies. But also know that we have an emergency medical technician on site to be a first responder to any medical incidents that happen during the recruitment process if any happen. And last but not least, dress comfortably. We know y'all want to look great and, dress in all the good things, and that's great. But also remember that it is a lot of walking. So again, shoes, appropriate attire to, show your best self in the events while also making sure you're comfortable walking around on campus and on row and all those different pieces. Just make sure your students are dressing comfortably and prepared for that piece. So now we're going to go through some frequently asked questions before we get to the Q&A session. So first and foremost, and Harriet, if you want to unmute for this one, because you can add some context, and she started talking about it. But how many spots are in each sorority? Harriet, you want to take that one?
Yeah, great question. So everyone panics when we have more people registered and participating, thinking that ultimately that restricts how many people are going to get bids at the end of the week, and that's not how it works. We will look ideally to simplify it. The number of people registered minus the attrition for the week, so the number of people that withdraw, and I will tell you 98% of everybody who is not participating by preference has self-withdrawn, meaning they have taken themselves out of the process. They had invitations and they didn't seek to continue relationships with anybody they had invitations from. So anybody arriving at preference with a invitation to preference party or parties, that number of PNMs divided by the number of chapters is ultimately a simplified version to say, if you come into preference, there is a spot for you in our community. And so it doesn't restrict, it goes off of who is still active and eligible and participating at the point in which we're starting preference rounds. And then the number of people that sign the MRABA ultimately divided by the number of chapters. And so that's our restriction point. There's not because this many people registered, there's less bids to give out. We will give out bids, and we gave out more than 100 per chapter was what we were looking at last year. So the class size will grow before we ever punt anybody out of the recruitment process itself, if that helps to answer the question.
Absolutely. I think no organization is coming into recruitment saying we're only giving them out X amount of bids. No one knows that. That number, nothing is set until, like Harriet said, that preference round, and those selections are made by the P&M. So there's no predetermined number for any organization. Can I come to recruitment or bid day? So for the recruitment part, that is a no. The recruitment piece is a student experience. We want the students to be able to navigate that and do what they need to do to navigate the process. It's also during the week, and I know many of y'all are very busy, so we wouldn't expect to see very many of you during the actual recruitment process. But that is that piece. But bid day, yes. Like I mentioned, parents are very much encouraged to attend if they choose to do so. Come to bid day. Like I said, 10 in the morning is where we would recommend parents be ready to come to Olympic Boulevard. Your student's responsible for letting you know who they received a bid from, and that's the organization's chapter facility you would go to meet your student and celebrate the day with them. Will the dining halls be open? Since my student is moving in early, absolutely yes. We're very fortunate that our dining services partners, we've talked to them in the past few years, have gotten the dining halls open during once that first day of early move-in hits. So your students' meal plans will be active during that time. So if your student has a meal plan, they can use their meal swipes during the week for that piece. That being said, if you are the parent or supporter of a student who doesn't have a meal plan or who doesn't live on campus or any of those pieces, we will provide lunch for students Wednesday through Saturday for that end. So they can go to the dining hall, and lunch will be covered by Panhellenic through their recruitment fee. That will cover their lunch. So students who don't have a meal plan are able to have their meal during the recruitment piece too and have lunch in the dining hall. How will my student get to recruitment each day? And questions about parking. So the primary parking lot for students participating in sorority recruitment is going to be lot 29. That is where the vast majority of the parking is. That is closest to Olympic Boulevard for them to go. I will say many of the students walk. Centennial is not a very far walk from from Olympic Boulevard, and as I drive through recruitment, I've seen it. All the P&Ms in their recruitment T-shirts walking to Olympic Boulevard. That Oftentimes students are walking from their residence halls, but if your student is driving or doesn't live on campus and is community campus to participate in recruitment, lot 29 is the best parking lot to park in. And again, it's right around a 5 minute-ish walk from Olympic Boulevard for that piece. Obviously, for any students with any sort of mobility needs, we will have that covered, and we will talk to those students individually at P&M orientation and make sure they let us know and we can navigate that. But for everyone else, parking at lot 29 is the best place for recruitment. My student has a schedule conflict. Can they go through recruitment? Yes. So with that being said, Harriet and I will be at P&M orientation at both sessions, and at the end of orientation, we will tell every single student if you have a schedule conflict, you need to see us prior to leaving orientation, so we have all of your schedule conflicts written down and noted for the week. So don't email them to us now because I have a lot of emails in my inbox. Panhellenic does as well. We can't navigate them now. We do it right there on site because that is the best system that works best for us to be able to make sure we catch everyone at that time. So if your student has a schedule conflict, we will note that and make decisions to navigate their schedules as much as we can. Now, the caveat to that piece is as much as we can, right? If your student has a conflict that limits the amount of parties that they can go to in a day or any of those things, we can't make parties appear out of and add things to rounds or anything like that. So we accommodate as best as we can and get your student into as many of their events as they can based on their conflict and what that is. So we can shift schedules, we can place P&Ms in different parties and move folks around to accommodate for times as much as possible or days as much as possible. But it really depends on the schedule. And again, we do what we can to make sure that they're attending as many of their events as possible so that the organizations have the most opportunities to see them and your student still can navigate any obligations that they have to navigate. If my student's having issues with the educational modules, so that piece, they can email pha@georgiasouthern.edu. But before they email PHA, I would highly recommend that your student goes into the folio course because our students implement in the folio course, there is a tutorial video on how to access all of the educational modules and to complete the modules. So before emailing, please watch that video first and see if there's anywhere in there for you to troubleshoot so you can access those educational modules. And then moving forward from that piece. I did want to mention the educational modules because we didn't mention them throughout the rest of the presentations. But your students, if they are eligible for recruitment, they've received the notice about the educational modules that are required. So we have three: hazing prevention, fraternity and sorority life edition, decisions, alcohol and other drug awareness, education and misuse prevention, and then brave and bold dialogues. So those are the three educational components that Panhellenic requires for all students participating in sorority recruitment. So those are due by recruitment beginning, so that by that early move-in day. So have your student continue to work on those throughout their time as they lead up to sorority recruitment. If my student withdraws from recruitment, can they still join a sorority? Yes. If your student voluntarily withdraws from the recruitment process prior to signing that MRABA, that contract that Harriet and I talked about in the presentation, if they withdraw, yes, they are eligible to join any organization on campus if they would withdraw from the process prior to that point. I will say that the primary recruitment period, while it is the largest joining opportunity for our students, it's not the only joining opportunity to join a Panhellenic sorority. So after primary recruitment is done and we set what is total, there are some organizations that are going to have the ability to continue to bring in members. They do this through a process that's called continuous open bidding. So they will have access to everyone who withdrew and have the ability to, the chapters can reach out to those students, and they often do. But if your student is interested still after they have withdrawn, that is an opportunity for them to potentially go, as well as the spring semester. So if they withdrew prior to that contract being signed, then they can go through in the spring semester. And again, the spring semester isn't a primary recruitment formalized process like this. Each of the chapters are recruiting individually and hosting their own events and get to know yous and different things like that, and handing out bids on an individual basis. So that's kind of what that looks like, and a little bit of glimpse in the joining opportunities outside of the primary recruitment period. And then last but not least, how much are dues? I am going to, as I move into the Q&A slide, I am going to drop a Google link fold or Google Drive link in the chat. That link is all of the organization's financial transparency sheets in PDF format that you will have access to. So once I stop sharing my screen, I can grab that link and put it into the chat. So I will go ahead and do that. So with that being said, let me open up the Q&A. And as y'all start putting in questions, y'all should have access to the Q&A now. As y'all start asking questions, I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat.
Some great questions. I'll start answering while Daniel's dropping into the chat. How long is orientation? I believe it's allocated for 90 minutes. I will also note there are 2 sessions, and your student will be assigned to a session. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. And there is no obligation. I mean, they need to be there as there's really pertinent information that's provided. And then that is also the dedicated time, like Daniel mentioned, where we will take in schedule conflicts, talk to anybody that has any medical accommodations or things they need to report to us, anything that happens individually, and then they will also pick up information at that time. So hopefully that is helpful. There are not activities in the evenings. We're wrapped up at a pretty reasonable time compared to many programs across the country. We're wrapped up by 5:45, 6:30 most nights, and there aren't any scheduled outings at this point or trainings. We take care of it all on the front end. I can't remember if Daniel said this or not. They are exhausted. They are so tired and socially drained. They've had so many conversations within the course of the day, casual and formal. They're done. And so we don't really encounter and have not really encountered anything or major incidents or lacks of things to do. They want to go home. They want to shower. They want to eat. They want to binge television. We really actually get some feedback from parents, like from time to time, like, is my kid okay? Like, they're not so chatty when they're on the phone when they're done at the end of the day. They're tired. They're very tired. And so I think that that's helpful to understand or anticipate, because you guys are going through a major transition with them as well. They're leaving, they're leaving your environment, and y'all are gonna ease into different things. This week is weird. This week is strange. And so we don't provide programming because we found that they're very tired.
Yep. One question that came in and I think it's about early move-in, but P&Ms are moving into the dorms that they have been assigned. Yes. For that early move-in, they aren't living in a place for a few days and then moving to their residence hall that they're assigned. They are moving into their new home for the next year. Yeah, no need moving back and forth after recruitment. It's not a temporary thing. They move into their residence hall for that year.
I'm going to answer another question about orientation. It says, should you bring
Mhm.
a rush bag to orientation? To answer two questions at one time. Like everything you're packing and bringing when we go to row is not needed at orientation. We are in a beautiful theater. There's AC, there's nothing there. There are no recruiters that are there. It's only our staff and our recruitment counselors. It's very casual. Everyone is coming and they're like moving clothes, t-shirts, athleisure. It's a very low key day. So no, most people are bringing their keys and wallet only. There's nothing they need to bring with them into orientation. Additionally, there was a question on here that said, if you're not invited to preference, if at any point your student is released from recruitment or not invited to a party or receive a bid, they will get a phone call. You as a parent will not get a phone call. We don't interface or interact with parents unless there's an emergency situation or you've initiated some type of contact with us. And so we will communicate with your student. A couple of notes on this. If they have do not disturb turned on, we can't get in touch with them. And then it is heartbreaking when they show up because they've not answered our phone calls. If their voicemail box is full, we can't leave them voicemails. If they have blocked, we're unknown numbers. I have a number from Texas. Daniel has an out-of-state number as well. If they block numbers, we can't get in touch with them. And we're very much on the go. There would be a variety of reasons we would call them throughout the week, including like if they didn't hit save on their preferences each night, we roll phone calls all night long until we get them to answer their phone and submit. So please just make sure that we'll have these same conversations with them, but they need to be answering their phone. I know that's not a thing they do, but we do need that from them for this week, but we will not call you at any point. And so you'd be getting a call from them where they would choose to relay that information to you.
I'm going to answer. There's a question about attire. A question about the philanthropy shirts, and then for what to wear on each day. With that being said, the philanthropy shirt is for both days. With that being said, their parties will be split into those 2 days, and depending if they've asked us for a schedule accommodation or any of those piece, we'll navigate if they actually have events on both days. But most likely many students will have events on both days. So with that being said, the time outside should be a little bit more limited where the shirt isn't getting too terribly dirty because it is used for both days. For the rest of the rounds, so sisterhood and preference, Panhellenic has posted a style guide on their Instagram, and there's also a video in the folio course that goes through each of the rounds and recommended attire for each of the days. So I'd highly recommend watching that video as they go a little bit more in depth into, what would be appropriate for each round in terms of clothing and attire. What we will say, and something we talk about all the time, is the clothes in your student's closet are more than enough. They want to meet your student and not the clothes that they're in. So, that being said, I know they want to look their best and do all the things, and we can certainly appreciate that. That certainly doesn't require going out and buying a brand new wardrobe or attire. This experience, we want to make sure it's as accessible and affordable as possible, so there is no need to go out and purchase new attire. What is in your student's closet is perfectly acceptable, and your student can have a great experience and make great outfits with what they already have available on that end. And for the philanthropy shirts, they will pick up those shirts during orientation as they check in. So they'll get all of those pieces during orientation. There was a housing waitlist question. So our office oversees the fraternity and sorority recruitment side of things and gives names and whatnot of eligible P&Ms to them so that they can allow for early moving. But anything related to the wait list or off-campus housing isn't something that we have the ability to address with any of the off-campus pieces. But if it is on-campus housing, reaching out to our partners at University Housing is the best course of action to reach out to, and letting them know that you're participating in sorority recruitment and what that looks like and the time commitments needed. They can be reached at housing@georgiasouthern.edu. And I'm scrolling through questions and
I'll
trying
answer
to.
one. Can you remind us the purpose of the Zoom call that the girls get on via email? So tomorrow they will receive an email and we'll assign them a day and a time that they need to get on Zoom. When they get on Zoom, they are going to be expected to make their choice, that first cluster and rank, remember? So we have 7 chapters on our campus, and they will need to say yes to 6 chapters, and they will need to say no thank you to 1 chapter. They will do this live with a member of our Panhellenic executive board, someone who's trained to counsel and coach them, not in making their decision on who based on the chapter's videos. So they've needed to have watched all 7 videos before they arrive on the Zoom appointment, and then they will need to cluster and rank. They will cluster 6, they will leave 1 in their rank, and they will do this, and we will support them from a technical perspective in that Zoom appointment. If an emergency happens, if something happens beyond your control and they miss their appointment, they will be contacted by us as a follow-up. That's why it's split up alphabetically. We will follow up and say, hey, you missed C last names. You need to come on. Here's your a new session that you can come into. And so we're happy to accommodate. We understand things happen. But yes, they will need to come prepared to make a decision about which of the chapters they want to put in their cluster and which chapter they're going to leave in their rank during that appointment time.
Yes. Thank you, Harriet. So there was a question about philanthropy round and would they attend both days or some only one of the 2 days? Yes to both. Every P&M schedule is individual, so it truly depends. Harriet and I will look at all the P&M schedule and try to make sure what makes sense. Trying to schedule some things that make sense for the students. Also working through any schedule conflicts. So if any students have a conflict on one of the 2 days, we'll make sure to schedule any parties that they're invited to on either of the days just to make sure that they're set in what they need to do. But it could be a student has parties for only one of the days. It could be that they have them for both. Each schedule is individualized. It could be either or, depending on their schedule and any accommodations that they reported to Harriet and I. For the dining halls for this question, I'm unsure of their hours as we lead up to early move-in, but that should be up to date on their website. So you should be able to look there and be able to see what their hours would be during that time frame. But they're typically open for general breakfast, lunch, and dinner times. There should be availability for your student to, use their meal swipes and stay nourished during that time.
To answer a question, this is helpful, typing it out as well. It says, can you clarify the clustering again? If we have 6, how many are we ranking in each round and clustering in each round? So 6 and 1. And then I for philanthropy, and then I hesitate for sisterhood. It's 4 and question mark. It depends on how many houses your student had back for the round of philanthropy. So if they only had 4, if they have 4 that they attended for sisterhood or in philanthropy, they would put all 4 in their cluster going into sisterhood. So it's 6 and 1, 4 and 2 or 6 and 4, and then 4 and 2. So that's the breakdown if you had max party invites, but again, that's not the norm. So it's a tricky question to answer based off of how many you had in the previous round. So it's going to be different per each person. So the only one we can say for sure is 6 and 1. That makes sense.
And if you hear us quiet for a second, we're also typing some answers too and trying to read questions. So as we do that, if you hear any lulls, that is what we are doing. As they visit the parties and events, are students encouraged, allowed to take notes? Just thinking that they need to record thoughts as they're before moving to the next event. So great question. For the events, we have about on philanthropy round, we have 20 minutes scheduled in between each party, and for every other round, there are 15 minutes in between each party. So there are times for students to do that. They're also not typically not going back to back to back to back for parties too. There's typically, she might have a party 1 and then nothing for party 2 and then a party 3 where she has that break time. So plenty of time to navigate those thoughts. And while you typically aren't going to see students taking a note right there because they're very engaged in the conversations with the chapter members that they are engaged with. Both our recruitment guide and the P&M Companion app, which is the app that we use for sorority recruitment for your students, they have a notes-taking app on those things. So your student is able to take notes in those places, whether it be digitally on their phone or taking some notes in the P&M guide that they receive on orientation day. So that would be the best time to take notes about the organizations that they're the most interested in and what they liked and different things about all the organizations. That would be the best time to do it because I would, 9 times out of 10, most of the students are very sucked into their conversations, watching the videos that some of the organizations provide or any of those pieces during the recruitment, during the actual parties.
Lots of questions about schedule, and I just want to clarify, it depends on their schedule. So the only time we have a unified start time is on Wednesday, the very first day of philanthropy. They have to arrive before we send anybody their schedules. Once they arrive, where we're all together standing, as a group, then they'll be sent their schedules, and then we will direct them live and in person. That arrival time is 8:30 a.m. On that day. I have my schedule, I printed it. It is 8:30 on that day, and then we will direct them as to where to go. If they have a party right away, we'll walk them directly to row. If they don't have a party in the first party, we will direct them inside or, around this program space that we're using. And then they will be walked over to row as they have events that day. So we're keeping them away from where most of the action is happening until it's time for them to be over there. After that, after we go to lunch that very first day and everybody has seen row already, they have to get themselves there. They need to be on row 30 minutes before their event. And so they'll need to read their schedule. They'll need to account for their timing. They will need to give themselves enough time to walk and get themselves there on time. So please, please, please be our champion in helping them to understand time management and their schedule and reading their schedule appropriately. It's a little tricky on their phone. Screenshot it, make sure that they're seeing it. Letting it load all the way is another problem. We've had people, or they don't scroll down to see that there's more parties. And so they panic. So we will be there to help that very first morning only. Outside of that, they will get their schedule in their dorm room. When we hit send in the morning for sisterhood and preference, they'll need to see it on their phone and they'll need to show up 30 minutes prior to their event. Feels harsh, right? They have to get themselves where they're going.
All right. I'm going to rapid fire some questions to see if we can scope down the Q&A. So what does bid day look like for the parents, and is it worth it, the drive there? It's very dependent on all of your context. That is truly up to the parents. It is not a required thing or something that 99% of parents do. So if you did it, you would be the oddball out or anything like that. Usually families who are local or maybe have some sort of connection to the organizations or whatever the case may be are typically who we see attend the most. But it's not a required piece. And what it looks like, dependent on the organization and the experience, I would say it would be a short amount of celebrating with your student and having a good time and maybe meeting some of the students and volunteers who support the organization. I would also be shocked if, the student doesn't run off and meet all of her new sisters and ends up having spending all their time with them. So again, it is not a required thing, and so just know that piece. You aren't the oddball out if you don't make it or any of those pieces. Plenty of y'all live a variety of miles away. So just know that piece and that experience might look a little different just because your student will probably be super excited and talking to all of our new sisters. For the financial transparency sheets, Francisco, if you could copy and paste the Google Drive folder back in the chat. So if we missed anyone, they can see it. But not only are these PDFs available in that Google Drive folder that we sent you, all of them are uploaded in the sorority recruitment folio course. So it's important you know that because those are all there. So you can log into the folio course with your student and review the financial transparency sheets, particularly before the first round of selections. So if that impacts your decision, you're able to make sure it's included in it. The dress code for orientation is no dress code. You will be, or your students will be moving in that day. And I'm sure they will be in whatever move-in clothes look like. They are not expected to dress in anything nice. Students show up in gym shorts and big t-shirts and sneakers and all those things, very casual, that no one's going to be there to see them. None of the chapters are going to be there to see them. So no dress code. For the morning after, yes, that they should show up with their philanthropy round t-shirt and what they're wearing to philanthropy round for that day. Any other day during the recruitment process, they should show up wearing what they're wearing for their rounds and their parties. Um, can parents enter the dorms while P&Ms are attending the events that continue help setting up the rooms? Yes, many parents do that. They keep setting up the rooms while the students are at orientation. That students should leave you their key or access. I'm not 100% sure what that looks like. But as long as you have the access to it, you should be able, and that is a very common occurrence. Is a parking pass required for recruitment week or for parents on bid day? No. At that point, they should not be ticketing as long as your students are parking in the lots that we're telling them to. So, lot 29 being an example, the Union, their designated residence hall parking spot. Also, they should, if they haven't bought their parking passes or anything like that, you should still follow that piece. So we'll send parking directions to all of the students on the night before every single round, so they know exactly where to park and what is and isn't permitted in terms of parking. For parents, since it's a Sunday, no, parking pass isn't needed for that because it's the weekend, so no parking passes are needed on the weekends.
Jump in. I've answered a couple of questions about recommendation letters, legacies, things of that nature. That is not part of what Panhellenic participates or the university participates in at all. Anything, any advice, any guidance, any direction you've been given about those processes, they don't interface with our arm of recruitment. That would be with each individual house individually or the national organization of that group. And so there's really not any answers or guidance for us to give. It's not that we're not willing or it's secretive or anything like that. It just is not part of our functionality in the recruitment process. And I will say from my own undergrad experience and alumni experience, there's not a great deal of weight put on them, not a great deal of emphasis put on them. I spend a lot of time around the students. They're not mentioning or talking about them. And so I understand if you're seeing some stuff in parent groups or local alumni groups in your area, stressing these processes, it's less relevant than ever. And again, just not something we're interacting with or providing any guidance on. We're not trying to be unhelpful. It's just not part of our role.
Yeah. I do want to answer a couple questions because there were some questions about financial transparency sheets and what's on the ones that have been uploaded into the Folio course and in the Google Drive folder. And something I would love to mention to particularly parents, I talk about this at SOAR if you saw our SOAR session, but our students build their own budgets and set their own dues structures and payments and all those different fees associated with maintaining financial standing in their organization. They are private organizations. Our office doesn't oversee the collection or setting or any of those things of their budgets. We just support Panhellenic in ensuring that each organization completes the financial transparency sheet and makes it public to the students going through recruitment. And we as an office make it public to the parents because we know y'all are the ones oftentimes with the most questions about the financial transparency sheet and some of those pieces. So, with that being said, the financial transparency sheets are filled out individually by the organizations, and we do not edit them. We don't edit them because it is their finances, and us editing it is not our space to do that because they are private organizations with their own finances. So if you're confused about what a financial transparency sheet says or what payment options might be available or what structure the payments look like or anything like that, the best option would be to reach out to the organization directly and ask them, what do their finances look like? Is the student expected to pay to remain in good financial standing, and all of those pieces? Because again, they are private organizations and they handle their finances organizationally with the support of volunteers and their national organization. So on our end, we don't edit those. We provide what they have self-reported for those sheets. So the best point of contact would be reaching out that chapter directly, either through email, social media, or whatever the case may be, or asking that question during sorority recruitment itself. The question was about bid day. So if parents are arriving at 10, how are we supposed to know in advance if they didn't receive a bid? So if a student didn't receive a bid for any reason, primarily from the intentional single preferencing that happened, we call the student the night before. So we wouldn't ask the student to show up at the Performing Arts Center for bid day if they didn't have a bid. We let them know the night before that they didn't match with an organization or anything like that. It is a very rare occasion where, they didn't match with anyone if they maximize their options. But with that being said, intentional single preferences is where we see students um, uh, end up not matching because again they only put that one and we don't have a number two to look at to try to match them with. So they will know the night before, and we call every single student who intentional single preference and ended up not matching. So a little bit, I can add a little bit uh about this. So there's a question about term. We use semesters as our terms. So the fall semester and the spring semester is what chapters charge their dues by. That's the term that we use. We run on a semester calendar. So with that being said, what you'll typically see is students charging in the fall a set amount for their fall dues and then a set amount in the spring for their spring dues. So with that being said, each of those sections is separated out. On the sheet, the top section is the new member term piece. So for the new member term, it is the fall semester because they're going in and joining in the uh, fall semester this semester. So with that being said, that is the price that a student is expected to pay as part of being a new member in an organization. As we've mentioned, there are some one-time fees associated with joining an organization, such as some of your materials, your badge that you'll get, all those different things. So the first semester, that new member term is typically a little more expensive than subsequent terms because of some of those one-time fees. And then under the new member term, which is the first block of prices and breakdown, you'll see in-house fees and out-of-house fees and two separate. The in-house one is what dues look like at that time for students who live inside of the chapter facility. So that includes the rent they pay to the chapter or their housing corporation in order to live in the facility, plus whatever their active member dues are for that piece. And that has a fall and spring semester breakdown. And then the out of house, where that's what students are paying if they don't live in the chapter facility, fall and spring semesters. So that's what the sheet looks like and what those three breakdowns look like. That's kind of a general gist of the financial transparency reports and what you're looking at. The top section, the first set of numbers is for the new member term, which you're looking at the fall because they're joining in the fall. And then you're down below is everything afterwards. And for in-house, living in the facility, and out of house, whether your student lives or doesn't live in the facility, what the financial obligation is for that. Um, if the student lives in a sorority house, is a dining plan required still? For first year students, we do not see students who join their freshman year living in the chapter facilities. You are bound to your university housing lease. So we don't see students leave their university housing residence halls to live in the sorority facility. One, they're already filled up for their upcoming school year, so they're already have who's living in there set up. And yeah, students are still required to live in their first year residence hall for that first year. And that includes having that meal plan for the student. So your student will maintain their meal plan for the first year. I'm not sure what meal plan requirements look like after the first year. I don't believe there is a meal plan requirement for students after their first year at Georgia Southern. That's really up to y'all and the piece. So yes. That being said, I did want to mention only one organization has a dining plan, an in-house kitchen, a commercial grade kitchen facility in their chapter facility where they are regularly serving meals. Only one organization does. Every other organization has just a general kitchen for their members to make their own meals in and different things like that. So it's not a commercial grade actual serving of meals, except for one of the organizations. So just wanted to mention that piece too. For bid day baskets, I know someone else asked, so I can answer it out loud too. The bid day baskets are created and made by private businesses in and around the Statesboro area. Our piece is we don't share any private student information with any entity outside of Georgia Southern. We aren't sending that to any of these businesses or any of those things, and that includes bid lists and student names and all of those different pieces. So, my recommendation for anyone who might be interested in some of the bid day basket offerings that many of the local businesses may know is actually speak to the business and ask what process they have for getting the correct organization's basket to your student or to you so you could gift it to your student. All of them have different processes. They know we don't send the list out. They've done this for multiple years, and all of them have some sort of get us the information by X amount of time and you can pick up your basket or whatever the case may be. It's individual based on their business practices, but at the end of the day, it really is for the best place to reach out is to them.
Now I'm just jumping on one of the questions. Question is like, what should be in their bags? So I would definitely recommend they bring an umbrella, a quick raincoat that they can just put in the bag. A portable fan is also going to be helpful. Anything that they need to survive during the day. So snacks. Again, we will have break houses on row. They will be stocked with water, additional snacks, feminine products. But if there's anything that they need to survive throughout the day, that's what we included. Again, they will be able to leave the bags outside of the houses before they enter any of the parties. So they will be looked over by the pie guys who are outside in the porches. So there nobody's going to do anything to the bags. They're not going to be touched. So I would recommend to put in that bag whatever they need to survive for a long day, and make sure they also have a change of shoes to be comfortable because they will be walking up and down row into and from their dorms. So
I
definitely,
unmuted just to say that. Like it's the
so
biggest
just
mistake anyone makes the
yes.
entire week.
Yeah, so I think that again, and it never fails that again, there's always somebody who doesn't heed this advice, and then they're struggling to walk home because they have blisters and whatnot. We've been doing this for 13 years in my case, hired for almost 8, 9 years now, and we've seen it all. So we just want to make sure that to and from they are the most comfortable they can be because it's going to be a long days. It's definitely like Daniel said earlier, it's going to be hot. It may rain more than likely. So we just want to make sure that they're comfortable. But as far as what needs to be in the bag, like I said, an umbrella, a quick, easy, light rain jacket, anything they need, additional snacks, water, mints, gum, that they would need to, like I said, to survive the day.
Another great question. Someone said, if you have a long while between parties, can you go back to your dorms to eat or rest or whatever? The window we kind of give, we're gonna have to adjust it this year a little bit, is 90 minutes. They would need to have more than a 90-minute break to make that worthwhile. It's just too long, it's too far to walk there and be back 30 minutes before your next event, right? So they would need to have at least 90 minutes. I would say 2 hours between an event to make it worthwhile to go. Now they may be able to walk to a dining hall or they may make friends with somebody that lives a little bit closer, but like I wouldn't count on that is kind of what we're observing.
I would mention too, that because someone did ask about the break houses, and I think Francisco typed in an answer, but I can say it out loud. Break houses are actual houses, and it's the fraternity houses across the street from the sorority houses. So there is air conditioning and all of those different pieces too, seating and all those things. So they will have some space to be able to sit and relax and chill. They aren't going to have to sit out on the sidewalk or anything for that or outside. We have air conditioned chapter buildings that serve as our break houses during that time. So they will have that.
Two
Um,
toppers on top of what you just said.
mhm,
They cannot have cars come pick them up on row. We cannot have
mhm.
extra traffic on row. So do not, boyfriends can't pick them up, siblings, you, and Ubers, like no extra vehicles on row. So we will not allow any pedestrians to be picked up. Outside of any facility, we give a couple of special permissions to people that have schedule conflicts or injuries. Outside of that, no cars on row. Same thing's true. They can't order Uber Eats to row if they get hungry. There's no like deliveries being taken on row as well. So there's not an option or a chance for that.
Yes. And each day has a scheduled lunch break that more than makes that 2 hours readily available. Harriet mentioned the no Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever. Your student will have time to go eat and get a meal. We have scheduled lunch breaks each day on top of any time that they have in between parties that might be a break in their schedule. Um, and then if you students who might not know anyone, who are new to the area and trying to connect, I think one of the best things students can do is meet folks in their residence hall. Y'all are moved in at that time. So it's a great opportunity to meet folks. during that time and connect. A lot of the students live in the same residence halls and can connect right there. It's also a big piece of orientation and the breakfast on the first day of philanthropy as well. That's an opportunity for your student to sit next to someone and introduce themselves and make that connection and ask where they live and if they're living on campus and if they, want to connect and all those pieces. Same thing at breakfast, all of those things. So I would highly recommend your student utilize. And all students utilize their space in their residence halls. You are going to see the rest of the women you're going through recruitment with pretty much the entire week. So it's a great opportunity to continue to connect with them, particularly around orientation and the breakfast that morning. So with that being said, it looks like we cleared out the Q&A. You always have great questions. We do this every year, and y'all have really good questions, and we always love being able to do this. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. So thank y'all all so much for being here. We know it is 8:47 if you're on Eastern. I feel like most of you are. So we know it's late and around dinner time and all those pieces. So we really appreciate y'all being here because at the end of the day, our office's philosophy is that the fraternity and sorority experience isn't just a student experience. We want everyone to be involved because when everyone's on the same page, the student is going to have that much more of a fulfilling, engaging, and impactful experience. So, with y'all being on board and being so committed to support your students through the recruitment process and sharing correct information and getting them situated in the way that they need to do, you're already taking that step to providing your student an incredible fraternity and sorority experience. And, it's one of our favorite things to do is provide this information and support. So, with all that being said, if you have any questions, I'm actually going to go back to the share screen, maybe if I can find it.
So as Daniel pulls that up, just a couple quick reminders. So there's a couple links that we put in the chat. Again, the financial transparency sheets are in the folder. So if you ever need to go back and check those, I also added the link to our YouTube channel. That's where the recording of this will be posted. So if you ever want to go back and go through any of the presentation, that's there. And then one of the things that we're looking at doing is a parent reception that night on Tuesday. So we have an interest form. So if you're interested in doing that, that would be great. We're just trying to gauge if that's something that would be feasible or not. And then as Daniel said, the contact information is on the screen.
Wonderful. I hope y'all have an incredible night. And if you have any questions, our contact is there. Please reach out. Otherwise, we will see many of y'all on August 11th.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
night.